Nobody is playing a pirate republic in the Caribbean, no. Although several nations do have a goal to spawn a pirate republic, including Britain. Anyway, while this is loading, let's go and talk about Portugal a bit more. So they also need to be the first to circumnavigate the globe. So I am very much hoping that he'll take a screenshot of that when it happens. And then he also needs to have 51% or more trade power in 5 trade companies. And that's going to be a very easy one to check up on, because in the subjects screen, it'll show you where you're active in, which are trade companies. And then the trade companies are like West Africa, Cape, Mozambique, like the African sides, and then India, and then also I think into China. And basically he needs to be the most dominant trader in 5 trade companies, and that will allow him to turn on a special ability which increases the amount of trade efficiency you get. I need to double check precisely what that one does. It's quite a nice boon, I know that. And yeah, Aragon's had a few problems, which is why many different colours. Like Valencia's its own nation, Aragon's here, we've got Navarra and Catalonia all in this little area. And I'm just going to sit here so you can enjoy the mess left by Aragon and France in their wars. Tunis is pretty big. Tunis has actually done a remarkable job of staying below the radar. I think part of it is he's been missing so many sessions, so his country's just been protected a lot, so nobody's really been able to cut him down to size. And also, he was told in no uncertain terms to stop pirating, which definitely would have earned him some ire if he'd ignored that. Alright, so moving on from Portugal, we've got Koyunlu. So Koyunlu is the nation over here by the Ottomans, now bordering the Timurids, and he was definitely the one most affected when we introduced the surprise Timurids last session. His goal is to have Shia being the most numerous Islamic religion in terms of provinces. So if we very quickly go over to the religion overview, which I think is country religions, we can see here which countries are doing what, and then we can just sort this by provinces. And then Shia needs to be the most numerous in terms of Islamic provinces. So at the moment Sunni is in charge with their 494 provinces, but if Shia ever overtakes them, then Shia gets that goal. They also need to become the production leader in silk, so this is another one that we can use the ledger to look for. So if we just go over to the strategic goods and then go down to silk, we can see that currently it's Ming. And if we go and switch over to Koyunlu's perspective, we can then hover over this and say, okay, so Ming's got a 22.4% share of the silk trade, and Koyunlu's got 15.4%. So they are actually catching up, because I do know that there is a lot of silk in this region. I mean, part of that is going to require conflict with the Timurids, probably. And the Timurids would be one of the few nations that are in a position to, nations in a position to potentially stop Koyunlu from getting their goal. But yeah, there is a lot of silk up here. There'd be even more if they took this from the Timurids, so that may well be a cause for some conflict in the future between those two states. He needs to capture Constantinople. No, he doesn't need to. He just needs to ensure that Constantinople and Cairo are Shia. Doesn't matter if he owns them. He could get, say, the Ottomans to convert to Shia, and then so long as the Ottomans own Constantinople and Cairo, that would count. And that would be one of his goals achieved. So basically, Koyunlu has kind of taken on the role of the Papal States, but for the Shia religion. So if there is a nation which is like particularly strong in a more unique faith, then they'll kind of take the role as their religious leader. So Ethiopia has a very similar role with the Coptic faith. Koyunlu has it for Shia, the Pope has it for the Papal States, and then Bohemia for the Protestants / Reformed. They have a lot of goals which are religion related. They want to have 50% trade power in the Gulf of Aden, and there is definitely going to be a lot of conflicting interests in the Gulf of Aden, so I do think that this is going to be a fairly difficult one for Koyunlu to achieve. But yeah, they are trying to get 50% trade power in the Gulf of Aden. Whether they do that by going after Oman and stealing Oman trade nodes, or if they just get a light fleet to do it, they could try that way. Although it is a persistent goal, so they need to maintain that 50% to keep that goal achieved. And then finally, the one that they have actually managed to do. Koyunlu is one of the few nations in the game that has actually completed one of their goals, and that is to have the most cavalry in the world. Which at the moment, they do, joined to the Ottomans. That counts. No unify Islam goal. No, that would be way too difficult. Just making your religion the most populous, I think, is good enough. Anyway, let's take a look to see if anyone else has been colonizing. So we did see last time that Sweden and Denmark are here side by side in Greenland. And it does look like Denmark is now going after Newfoundland, which is a good thing because Newfoundland is one of their goals. They want to have a colonial nation on Newfoundland. So they need to get the 5 provinces minimum to form the colonial nation and then hold it. That's the important thing. They need to hold it. Is the cavalry thing something he needs to maintain, or has he completed that objective? No, he has to maintain that. So there's almost certainly going to be an arms race at some point between Koyunlu and some other nations that want to stop him getting a goal. And that's definitely going to be expensive. How is QQ not broke with that much cavalry? The silk. The silk is actually helping him pay for a lot of this stuff. Like, one of the things that shocked me last session is Koyunlu is actually one of the wealthiest nations in the world. They're up here. They're just behind Muscovy and ahead of the Netherlands. Like, they are really wealthy. And actually, most of that's from taxation, then production and trade. So QQ is doing a great job maintaining his economy at the moment. Does he have economic ideas or anything like that? He doesn't even have economic or trade. He's just really rich. I mean, this area of Persia here is super, super wealthy, but I'd say the majority of that's held by the Timurids right now. So QQ's clearly got some kind of special power under his belt or something. Ah, this is why. It's because he owns a very large chunk of the Persia trade node, which is a very, very wealthy one. There's 19 ducats at play here. And he may well have some more competition from the Timurids later on for Persia, because that's particularly lucrative. Although, the Timurids have a lot of goals about building up the Silk Road trade node. So it's basically Samarkand, Lahore, Lhasa, Yumen, Xi'an, and Chengdu. That does not include Persia, however. I purposefully did not make Persia one of the trade nodes that the Timurids have a goal to pursue, because I knew it was so valuable. So they want to get the overland trade going on, and then Persia is in a great position to steal that trade. And then if Persia is dominated by QQ, QQ can make a lot of money. And again, another source of conflict. Does QQ get the Cossacks estate? I don't think so. Can have a look. Nope. Amirs, Dhimmi, Merchant Guilds, and the Aloma. So they would have real competition against the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, for example, but the PLC does not have that as a goal. The only one which might be a contender would be Muscovy, which I think has to have the largest army, full stop. Oh, we've got Muscovy going after the Great Horde, and Muscovy also going after Genoa. So remember, the Genoa player did switch to becoming Galicia-Volhynia, so he's now here, leaving his old skin of Genoa behind, and Muscovy is immediately jumping on that to steal those provinces, which is another good move because A, it's getting him more turf, and B, it's also blocking off Poland-Lithuania from taking anything down in the Caucasus. So definitely starting to pull a bit of a surround here on the Polish-Lithuanian. So a good move by Muscovy there. Adapted very well to taking over the country. A cavalry arms race. Do I mean a horse race? Huh? Very good, Sindrin. Very good. Was just thinking because Cossacks estate gives you 20% reduced cav cost. I mean, there are a few ways of doing it. So one of them he's already done, which is the aristocratic ideas. Cavalry cost also reduces upkeep cost. One of the little known hidden benefits of that. And then I think his national ideas have a cavalry cost. Nope, just cavalry ability. Like, it's not a useless ability. He's going to have really strong cavalry, so he's going to want to have a lot of them anyway, because he's got land leader shock bonus, he's got cavalry combat ability bonus, and then also cavalry combat ability from aristocratic, and if he takes quality, he'll get even more cavalry ability. So QQ's cav is going to be good. And it does get up there with Poland-Lithuania. Poland-Lithuania can get more, but it's quite close. Oh, you like puns? Well, here's a good one. I do like puns. I sure hope QQ doesn't make a fool of himself. Yeah, very good. I like it. Only the Christians get the Cossacks. Yes, I thought so. Poland is occupied... Wait, is Poland fighting Genoa as well? Are these two allied? What shenanigans are these? No, Poland is not allied with Muscovy. I was going to say that would be a very, very surprising turn of events. Poland is rather comfortably allied with Transylvania, Prussia, Lithuania obviously with their PU, and Denmark. They have a royal marriage with Sweden, but Sweden does seem to have broken that. Who is Sweden allied with at the moment? Sweden is allied with Denmark, Prussia, and Great Britain. They did alienate a lot of players last time, because we did have the big showdown between Poland and Muscovy. Muscovy eventually came out as the loser in that, but it was a really... Like, Muscovy fought that war really, really well, and definitely didn't like get completely ruined. Yes, he lost 2 big provinces, but you can get those back. And Sweden was allied with Muscovy when they were attacked, and Sweden just went, nope, refused the call. So I'm definitely sure there's a bit of bad blood between these two now. Not to mention, of course, Muscovy wants Finland and Sweden wants Karelia and Kola. So who are people fighting against at the moment? So we've got QQ. Let's choose Nogai. So I can just click on this. QQ fighting against Genoa, the Great Horde, and Bessarabia. So QQ also trying to get in for a piece of the pie, probably because they're allied with Poland. And they did actually manage to take the southern area, so I do wonder if a deal's been worked out between these nations saying you can have this bit and I can have this bit, or whether QQ and Poland were just being a little bit opportunistic there. Not sure. And in fact, is this war declared by QQ? No, it's actually declared by Galicia. So it looks like Galicia wanted to take some of their old Genoese territories, but it doesn't look like there are any occupations. So I don't really know how Galicia is planning to expand from here. I have absolutely no idea. How strong is Great Britain? Great Britain's very strong. Great Britain is in an absolutely brilliant position at the moment. And something which I hadn't realised, by the way, and he's played this extremely cleverly, is Great Britain has the doctrine which gives him +1 combat ability, naval combat bonus off of owned coasts. I thought that was just Great Britain, but no, it specifically says owned coast. So Britain's now getting that +1 combat ability throughout like the majority of the Mediterranean. Because he's got Gibraltar, which means this sea province. He's got the Balearics, which means all of these 4. He's got Sardinia, which means these 3. He's got Malta, which means this one. Oh no, he doesn't have anything over here. So basically anything in the Western Mediterranean, Britain's going to have a very, very dominant fleet there. Even against galleys, because he's going to get that bonus with his heavy ships. So that was a very, very good move by the British. And I'm like, that's smart. That's some serious power projection there. And I'm pleased with that. Like, Britain's played, I would say, a very good Great Britain so far. I'd like to see them meddling a little bit more in European affairs. I mean, up to this point, it's been consolidation. But now Britain has formed Great Britain. Now the gloves can come off. And now the puppet master strings can be starting. And also, Great Britain is ludicrously wealthy, making 22 ducats a month at the moment, which is a very, very nice amount because of his trade deals over the English Channel between the Netherlands, Denmark, and France. And yeah, he's just rolling in the cash currently. He's paying out subsidies. He still hasn't renewed the subsidies to the Netherlands. So is the Netherlands actually starting to take trade? What's happening here? So what it used to be is the Netherlands was doing trade steering to Britain, but that agreement looks to have been cancelled. And I think that the Netherlands is now just collecting trade in the English trade node, taking 32% of the trade there. So I'd have to say that's probably a good move, but the Netherlands is now very much in Britain's sights. If Britain wants more control over the English trade node, then the Netherlands is going to be the obvious target for that. How are the diplomatic situations for these two states? The Netherlands currently allied to Cologne and Trier, so if the British did manage to land any troops, they'd be up against a real concentrated force. However, Britain does have the potential to call in Denmark, which has caused problems before, and then of course the Franco-English alliance, which has been the bane of many nations in Europe up till this point. And so far that shows no signs of weakening at all. Alright, so who else is at war? Bussy is fighting against Delhi and Sind, so this is part of the thing that Bursi asked specific permission for, because he wanted to go after Delhi so that he could do some shenanigans, which I said, yeah, okay, but no further. Delhi is all he's allowed to go after in India until we actually get some Indian players in the area. Prussia is currently fighting against Genoa, the Great Horde, and Bessarabia. That's probably alongside Poland. Galicia, we know, is in that fight. And then Oman is fighting as well. Oman is in the war against Delhi. So the Timurids have called in Oman to fight against Delhi. And Sind. Sind is these guys. So this might be an exchange for a centre of trade or something on the Sind coast. Or Oman is just being particularly hospitable to the big red blob. Which is also possible. Yeah, France and GB have allied for basically the entire game. And it's not cheating. They have a lot of goals which are mutually exclusive to each other. So I am very much expecting conflict to bubble up later on, but for the moment it hasn't. And yeah, they've been allied for almost 100 years. That started in 1444. I mean, this alliance is the result of Europe ganging up on France at the start of the game. So basically Burgundy tried to form a huge alliance, or basically a coalition, to go and fight against France. So France then started putting out their own feelers to basically counter this coalition. The result was the Anglo-French alliance. So really this is Burgundy's fault. And yeah, there's 300 years left for things to change. And I'm pretty sure they will. Because like I said, they have a lot of mutually exclusive goals. Although actually England doesn't. England's pretty much completed that. They need to have a colonial nation in 5 different colonial regions, so that's just like Portugal, so that's more of a colonial problem. So is France going colonial? Because if they're not, then that's going to be one source of conflict reduced between them. France has not gone exploration, so France at the moment has no colonial aspirations. And then the other goal is... Where's France gone? There you are. France wants to own London or Madrid. And it is a London or Madrid. And France has definitely been going more after Madrid than they have been going after London. Although that could always change. Like if Castile decides that they're going to put up one hell of a fight. More difficult now they don't own the Pyrenees. Because the Pyrenees really are your main anti-French defense mechanism. France has a much easier way of getting in. But if they did decide, you know what, Castile's not worth it, we're going to go for Britain, they could do that. And Britain has a couple of goals, which does make them a little bit vulnerable. For example, France wants to reduce the number of ships that Britain has to 0. Heavy ships that Britain has to 0. And that is actually one of their... Yeah, Great Britain, so England or Scotland, must have 0 heavy ships. And that's something France wants. Whether France does it themselves doesn't matter, as long as Britain goes down to 0 heavies. Okay, the war against Genoa seems to have ended. Has this been vassalized? Genoa has the Great Horde as a vassal, and it looks like the majority of the land actually went to Poland. So the Muscovite attempts to cut this off failed. I wonder if they have an agreement, because Poland and Lithuania needs to take over the Pontic Steppe. So I wonder if they've been talking... Nope, Muscovy is blocking them from taking the Pontics. So... the reasons for war between these two just continue to grow. But is Muscovy going to be able to get any allies that can really counter Poland? That's the question. This is now a diplomatic struggle. Right now, Muscovy is isolated. Muscovy needs to find some friends. I would think there's a fairly obvious one that they should go after, and possibly another one over here in Germany. One of the really... if Bohemia was here... Bohemia would have been such a critical kingmaker in a lot of European politics, but he just hasn't been here enough. Because Bohemia would have been against the destruction of Austria, which means that the Ottomans would never have got their hands on Vienna. Because Bohemia was in this war, but it was AI, so they basically moved their entire army to Constantinople and got stack-wiped. They did not contribute, considering the size of their armies. They would have been a big deal. Secondly, they should be protecting basically anyone who is not Catholic, which Austria at the time wasn't. Austria was Protestant. So that should have been another thing. And then also, Bohemia probably doesn't want to see these guys growing, because Poland was supposed to be the big Catholic protector of the Catholic faith. But of course, Poland's gone reformed. So now it's actually not in Bohemia's interests to stop